Hey guys, this is going to be a review of the XMD Shadow V3. I had some expectations for this cube when it was first announced. Considering how the spark was, I wasn't expecting the cube to be as good as an Alshi, but I was also hoping that maybe with some modding it could be similar. Unfortunately, this just wasn't the case. Right off the bat, I'll just say, don't buy this cube. The rest of this video will just be explaining why the cube is as bad as it is. With the spark, although I had a lot of issues with it, one benefit is that the cube is actually decent out of the box. Because of this, I actually know some people who aren't super experienced with the cube hardware that actually prefer it over the Alfu and Meilong. The performance isn't that much worse than those cubes unmodded, so it's not that much of a big deal if they use a cube that's just easier to use out of the box. That, however, isn't the case for a 6x6. The Alshi is decently usable out of the box without any setup, and also cheaper than the Shadow, making a better alternative in pretty much every aspect. The out-of-the-box performance of the Shadow is so bad that I wouldn't even expect it from a budget cube, let alone Qi's $50 flagship. Despite not living up to the 7x7, the Meilong 6x6 is actually a decent budget 6x6, and I would recommend it over the Shadow V3 for about a third of the price. I'm also one of the biggest MGC haters of all time, but I would probably also recommend the MGC 6x6 over the Shadow. I'm honestly not sure which one has better performance, but at least you'll save about $20 by using the MGC. Before getting the Shadow, I heard from some people that it feels similar to the Hong, which actually made me excited at first. I was one of the few people to actually prefer the Hong to the 562, so I figured I wouldn't mind the shortcomings of the Shadow as much, since I figured they might fall in line with the Hong. Unfortunately, pretty much the only similarities between the Hong and the Shadow is the friction and the feeling of the turning itself. The turning is really slow and heavy out of the box for the Shadow, and it takes a lot of solves to break it in. If the speed was the only issue, then that could be alleviated with setup and just a lot of break-in, and it would be worth it to break it in if it's actually a better cube than other options. But the main issue is actually lockups and pops. I have gotten lockups in this cube that I didn't even know were possible. I'll put some on screen now. The factory tensions are about the same as what I keep my Alshi on, but these tensions somehow manage to make the cube feel more rigid than it should, while also increasing the amount of pops you get severely. If I switch to this cube right after using the Alshi, I average about 1 to 2 pops until I fine-tune my turning to fit the Shadow again. When the cube isn't popping, it's usually getting those typical big cube lockups. Corner cutting of more than one piece is just non-existent, as that just causes the pieces to switch layers like you get with those really old big cubes. This sometimes happens with Alshi's second layers, but even then it's extremely rare because of how good the anti-misalignment mechanism is. On the Shadow, I've had this happen with pretty much every combination of layers and usually happens about once per solve. You can also see some messages on the screen that pretty much summarize my experience with this cube overall. Some people would say that this cube is worth it because it offers new features such as ball core and UV coating. What I'll say about that is, for a cube to be good due to these features, it needs to be a decent cube to begin with. There might be some cubes out there that are a bit too unstable without a ball core, for example, but core magnets are able to provide the increase in stability necessary to fix it. But if the cube gets lockups and pops through the smallest misalignments as badly as the Shadow does, core magnets can only help so much. Also, due to how heavy the turning is, you're probably not even going to notice the presence of core magnets, so there isn't even an argument of I just want to try this cube because it has core magnets. I would prefer a regular Alshi not set up to this cube pretty much any day. If you are somebody who really wants UV coating on your cubes, maybe look into PyCube's UV Alshi instead, which I also have a video on my channel, but definitely don't waste your money on the Shadow. So far, the only benefit I've found from this cube is I tend to get faster official solves if I warm up with it, just because of how punishing the turning is of slightly inaccurate turning. Overall, I'm really disappointed by this cube. Like I said at the start, I was hoping that the cube could be decent with some modding and a potential alternative if you're willing to put in some work. Because it was compared to the Hong, I was hoping that I might like it too, just because I tended to prefer that cube. But this cube was just nothing but disappointing. Definitely get a ball core Alshi if you just want the features that this cube has and don't waste your money on it. I really hope Qi will change something about the way they design cubes. I think I've hated pretty much every cube they've made since the Tornado V3. Something about the cube's friction-y feel and also just unstable turning where they don't misalign just make them really bad in my opinion. So hopefully Qi will fix whatever they're doing wrong and make some good cubes, but until then I'm probably not going to be getting any more Qi cubes. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope I prevented you from buying this cube.